TVGrace presents the inexpressible words of God, the gospel of grace, on the lips of Jesus Christ man. Abba, Father.
The gospel says that when the Lord was to arrive, we were going to be able to discover the intentions of our hearts. Is that so? Right? That when he was to arrive, you were going to be able to do that. You were going to be able to discover who you are. And to discover who you are, let's go to Romans chapter 7 in verse 18, so forth. And I know, are we all there? I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do. Instead, I keep on doing the evil I don't want to do. Now, if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it. Say, it is no longer I who do it, but the sin that dwells within me. What a way not to blame yourself, right? In other words, I go and I slap you and I'll say, oh, it wasn't me, it was the sin that dwells in me. Someone may think that way, right? But naturally, for that, you have to know good and evil so you don't slap someone. Because if you slap someone, you may be slapped. Because what you sow, it's what you reap. There are two principles here. But the apostle is speaking correctly here. He says, listen, it isn't I who does that, but sin that dwells in me, the devil that ruined my flesh. Truly, it isn't I, because who created evil was God. God created good and evil. He created a creation called Lucifer, Satan. He created him that he would impart upon you evil. Hello. This is to say, the plan of God is that sin be imparted to you. So he created the devil, and the devil tempted Eve, whom represents the mother of this creation. That's why Paul says, listen, truly it isn't I that does that, but the law that was imparted, that was given to me so that that would be manifest in me. Would there be another way of thinking? Naturally, you were given the knowledge of obedience, to be obedient in all things. And you were given to learn good and evil, so you know what evil is. So while grace did not come, a covenant of law was given to govern society so that society stays in order and doesn't continue in evil. A law was given with threats. Whomever did it will pay, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, until Jesus Christ appeared and took away that law and brought the other law, which is grace. The law of the Spirit of life that enables you, not by commandments, but out of duty. For an example, you don't have to obligate me for me to treat you right, because the law of the Spirit of life that's within me tells me that to treat you right is better than treating you bad. So I don't have to treat you right to be a child of God. I am a child of God. But there are people out there that don't know that they're children of God. There are people that never read the Bible, and in them there is a spirit of love. I've seen precious people out there. I've seen people that conduct themselves as gentlemen and ladies beautifully and never go to church. They're children of God. But what happens is that they don't know, it still hasn't been activated, that when one is a child of God, should congregate himself and should come to the understanding of the spirit of life that dwells in us. But the apostle wants to make a distinction here and wants to tell you that grace is so you can discover who you are. And speaking of who you are, in the next verse, it says who you are truly. Look at what it says. Verse 21, I find then a law that when I would do good, evil is present with me. For I delight in the law of God according to the inner man, which is who you are. You're not the exterior man, you are the interior man. It says according to the inner man, what does it say? I delight in the law of God. Say, I delight in the law of God. Pastor, so then who am I truly? Well, you are a person who delights in good. Pastor, so that is my true identity? You are a marvelous person that delights in good. What happens is that you have a vessel of clay. You've been vested in a vessel of clay. This treasure, remember Paul said, it's in a vessel of clay. So when the clay is wet, it tarnishes the treasure. And sometimes you think that you are the clay. But truly, you are a marvelous person, complete, a precious person. You are a spirit created in the image of God, in his likeness. You are God himself. That's why God says, the Bible says we are God's. Sometimes there are people that see my son and they say, wow, you are almost identical to your father. Why? Because he is a creation of my clay. His clay and my clay look alike. Now, but his spirit is not my son. What's my son is the clay he's been vested in. The spirit was created and designed by God. It is to say that he is precious within. And you are a person that's complete, precious, without blemish, without sin, without evil. You are a person who delights in God's law. Say, I delight in God's law. So therefore, the intentions of your heart were uncovered. Come to know yourself. Salute yourself. Bless. I congratulate you. Listen, and don't doubt that your vessel of clay has done some things. Here, amongst all of the ones that are seated here, many things have happened that if we were to judge ourselves by what has happened in the vessel of clay, you would lose sight of your true identity, which is perfect. Pastor, and why do other religions speak so bad about us? Because they know each other according to the vessel of clay. We are dealing according to the treasure. It's not that they're evil. They also, listen to this secret. Don't tell them. They also are perfect being, but they don't know it. All religions, the Catholics, the Mormons, the evangelicals, all, even the spiritualists, those that deal with black magic, they're beautiful people. But since they're working with tags, I am a Baptist, I am a Pentecostal Catholic, so they're always having to confess their sins or having hands laid upon them or anointed with oil or being helped or receiving counseling for inner healing. How are you going to heal the inner if the inner is perfect? According to the inner man, I delight in the law of God. There are ministries of inner healing. The interior you can't touch. That is perfect. That is the image of God in you. Are we clear? Now listen, how can you hate yourself? How can you think so bad about yourself? Why? Because your father mistreated you or your uncle, or you live in a home where they abuse your clay? or they violated your clay. And now you carry those loads of sadness. I don't confide anymore in men or women. I don't confide in no one. I am bitter. Why? If you can come out of that jail cell. Oh, don't you know, Pastor, what I've gone through when I was a child, what happened to me in my country? I'm here looking for a better life. You've always had the better life, but you didn't see it in your country. And you were brought here so they can tell you here. But now you can return to your country and everything is good. The problem wasn't your country or the semi-environment. The problem was your ignorance, darkness, the lack of knowledge. That is why those brethren that are in prison and hear the word of grace, they're free. What's incarcerated is their vessel of clay. We receive letters from our prison inmates that are part of this ministry because they call us to receive more conferences and they hear our radio program. As a matter of fact, in my trip to Bogota, Colombia, a young man came over to me, a tall, elegant man. He said, Pastor, blessed. You know, who am I? I said, forgive me. There's so many people right now I don't remember. I was in the federal prison in Miami in 1990. And I used to hear you on the radio. And since I've heard this message, I am a new man, a new person, a new husband. This is my wife and kids I present to you. Pastor, so what is the problem I have? You don't have problems. What you have are challenges in your vessel of clay to overcome. The problem, the word problem doesn't exist in the Bible. That is a word that was formed after the fact by those that are corrupt in their understanding that speak with their clay. Religions of today, what they deal with is the clay. Don't touch, listen. Don't eat meat on Friday. Don't go here. Don't dress this way. Don't dress that way. Dress however you wish. No one has to tell you how to dress. A young man one day says, is it bad to wear an earring? If it looks good on you, put it on. Bad that it doesn't look good on you. You know why? Because styles are going to change in 2 years, and then you might take it off. That happens. People are bound in their vessel of clay. Say, vessel of clay. While the vessel of clay is wet, there are going to be messes. It's going to get muddy. Clouds of mud. Pastor, so what should I do to avoid it from getting wet? Well, buy an umbrella. And what umbrella should I purchase? The best umbrella I know is the coverage of growing in grace. The coverage of growing in grace. And even with the coverage of grace, sometimes it gets watered down that you have to be with a rag there. There are little holes in the umbrella. Sometimes allows for you to get wet. Because, well, you've looked for it. Sometimes it suits you to get wet so that you can have love for others. Because if you never get wet, you may think that you are only a treasure and that you have no clay. You know that Paul said, so we can comfort them with the consolation that we were comforted. And sometimes when you think that you are only a treasure and you think that you are so perfect, and you think that you can criticize others, you start pointing and hurting others because you've been allowed to have such an excellent behavior. Well, an angel passes through and takes a glass of water and wets your back so that Therefore, you are a treasure. Let's look to the second letter of Corinthians. Second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 7. What happens is that the Apostle Paul couldn't speak to you the way I do, because then it would have been discovered before. So since God had intentions that this would be kept hidden for centuries and then uncover it, because it says in the last trump, it's to say that God had already planned that he was going to sound a trumpet with clarity in the latter days, in the last millennium. So if he wouldn't have codified this, well, this would have been known for all centuries, and then there wouldn't have been a last trump. The trump would have been playing always. So the idea was that the final trump sound. So look at what it says here. Verse 7, all with Bibles, please. But we have this treasure in what? In earthen vessel. For what? That the excellence of the power may be of God and not of whom? Us. You know what that means? That if you wouldn't have this vessel of clay with the law of sin, you would have committed the same mistake Lucifer committed. Listen to me closely. Your spirit was created in heaven, and while you had no vessel of clay, there were no problems. You submitted to God in the heavenlies. That's called the host of heaven. There are cherubims, seraphims, angels of power, archangels. That is an order that's in heaven of angels. So God has planned to send spirits to the earth and dress them with clay. But if he dressed them with clay without the knowledge of evil, then the same thing that happened to Adam would have happened to you. Adam was thrown to the ground and formed by the dust of the ground, and he wanted to become greater than God. Notice that it was this way. God told him, rule the earth. He says, have authority upon all animals. And what did Adam say? I'm not going to rule nothing. Let the animals go wild, poison snakes, and let the lions kill the deer. So then, that is why in the book of Genesis, when you read that when God, it says, the earth was disorderly, and God put Adam to put order. And you know why? Because sin had not yet been manifest. You cannot live without weakness. If weakness is taken away, you would be unbearable. You cannot stand anyone around you. That is why we are beings that Paul says that the deceitful desires of the flesh do not submit to the law of God. Pastor, but the churches out there, what they do is struggle not to have weaknesses. That's why they're so prideful and always criticizing and always looking at how you dress or where you're at. When you see churches that are always criticizing or person that criticizes, it's that. That's why in this church, there's no criticism. Here, you can come dress naturally. You know the style, and you try to dress in style. I can come here without a tie. I can come here with sneakers and with sports clothes and with a cap with the 14 placed in the center. But since it's Sunday, you dress to par. Right? There are certain clothes for different activities. Sports clothes, casual clothes, clothes that when you're invited to a banquet, right? Because the vessel of clay is like that. It has regulations and we submit to them. We submit for the love of. Not because we're obligated. You have to be awakened to everything within your surrounding. Sometimes you make routine of everything from my job to the house, from the house to the job. Sometimes the wife, sometimes the same food and the furniture in the same place, the curtains, the same curtains. Sometimes home, my wife likes the furniture a certain way, and then I said, can you change them up a little bit? Sometimes I'm driving the same route all the time, and sometimes I'm always driving through the same streets. Something tells me, go through a different route. Do you know what's helped me? My trips have helped me to think that way. Because it's that the clay, it's annoying. You have a clay that can harm you. You see the conflicts. There are many conflicts. And the husbands sometimes have to break routine. Let's do something different. What have we done lately? It doesn't have to be expensive. Listen, I was in Bogota, Colombia, and there the president ordered that on Sundays, certain avenues closed down so people can skate and ride their bikes. And I wanted to get on a bike to ride the highway, but I was going to preach, so I couldn't. I had no time. So people do something different, and that's not costly. Those activities that don't cost anything. Because people get bored. The clay, that's why you have to be patient with the other, the wife with the husband, the son. You have to understand those things. There are people that don't like the kids to scream or speak loud. You are depriving them of a manifestation of their childhood. You have to let them scream or purchase a bigger house so you don't have to hear them, or change the position or lock your door. You can't, because those are pressure pots that if you... With the clay, you have to know how to deal with. The important thing is that you nurture the treasure with knowledge. I congratulate you for showing up here this morning. You did well in showing up. We're thinking of staying home, right? You were thinking of staying home. The clay spoke to you. Listen to this, because the vessel of clay speaks. It says, many are the thoughts that come to the heart of a man. The thoughts come to this heart? No, there the blood pumps through. Many are the thoughts that come to the heart of a man. Many. So you have to ask those thoughts not to run free, to pay a toll. On the highways in your country, they put tolls, so when you go through, you have to pay 25 cents to go through, because that costs millions of dollars, and little by little, 25 to 25, they can recoup a lot of the investments, and it was loaned from another country, and it would allow us to pay back the debt for you to construct that road. So all automobiles have to pay a toll. Everyone that goes through there. Though there are some people that they get very close to the car in front of them and don't pay toll. Perhaps you've thought about doing that. That way, the thoughts that come to your mind, I try, and that helps me a lot. For an example, for me to govern this ministry worldwide that continues to grow, every day we multiply ourselves. Don't you see that someone is sharing with someone else? Someone is lending out a cassette. There is somebody that's looking at a video. So they get convinced, because this word comes to free you to divide the vessel from the treasure. And people like that you divide the vessel of clay from the treasure. What they don't like is, you have to be submitted to the apostle. I don't like that. But it's that every government has rules. And we have to be submitted. For something I need to tell you after I share this with you. The treasure The vessel of clay. The vessel of clay has its own thoughts that don't line up with the treasure. So you have to, those thoughts, when they arrive, pay toll, report. What are you coming for? I'm coming to harm you. I'm coming to bring concern. And if you allow me a little bit, tomorrow I'll bring another two thoughts. And if you continue, so you have to ask those thoughts to report. You have to look at those thoughts that come to your heart. If it's a thought of envy, perhaps you have envy with someone, with your sister, with your brother, with someone that came after you arrived to the U.S. and now he's prospered more than you have. And perhaps you say, oh, he's such a brown noser. What does it matter to you? He has a new automobile. Praise God for that. What does it matter to you? Leave people alone. Everyone is always looking to see what others are doing. Do your own thing. Ask why you are behind and he's moving forward. Perhaps it's that you're not reporting thoughts. You're allowing those thoughts and not paying toll, and he pays his toll. Report where you're going. I don't receive it. I receive. I reign in life. Perhaps you don't see that the other one is sowing and you don't sow. Then all of a sudden, his angel is prospering him, and your angel says, no, I'm not prospering you because you're not sowing. I don't know sometimes. Everyone carries his own load. Never look at others. And if you look at them, it's to applaud them. That's why Paul says, considering others as superior to you. Don't you see that we are spirits? We're not. The clay, after all, the vessel of clay is not eternal. It changes. It varies. What's eternal is the interior man, which is what you should nurture at this hour. Nurture it properly. I am perfect. Christ did all things perfect. I've always been perfect. I've never been imperfect. What happens is I was in darkness. I had no knowledge. But once I was enlightened with the knowledge of grace, I realized that I've always been what I am now. A spirit, a treasure that's in a vessel of clay. That's Puerto Rican, Colombian, Cuban, a vessel of this, that. But truly, the treasures are from the same place. They have a citizenship. Our citizenship is in the heavens. That is your true identity. Your true identity is that you are a wonderful person and you have to discover it. No one should judge you. No one. Unless for the things that have happened to you in your vessel. You have to have mercy on yourself, and others have to have mercy on you. And you have to have mercy on others, because what happened to you here isn't because you wanted to, because we've just finished reading that wanting to do good, I find this law that evil is in me. And wanting to do good, I don't do it, but the evil that I don't want to do, I do. You have to deal with that. And you can't deal with that, faulting others and pointing at others and judging. The more you point and judge, the least a person will fix what's wrong. We have to understand each other. That is the conclusion I've come to. That the human race go through what they go through because of the condition of their clay. That is why Paul says, let's stop judging one another. The worst thing they can do to you is to despise you and to judge you. That causes wrath, anger. So then he that causes the wrath and the anger to you Now you have a double job to bring to captivity this wrath and this anger. I have to deal with this situation to live in peace. Don't you see that flesh is flesh? Flesh plus flesh, it's equal to flesh. And there's flesh everywhere. In the churches, there's flesh. In the streets, there's flesh. This is a meat shop. This is a meat shop. So we have to look for a way to fix this in the best way we know how, with grace medicine, with the method that God left. Grace, say grace.